Hey there, bestie. I'm Lori Emi, your What to Read Next podcast host. Join me as we dive into exciting new reads that'll have you reaching for your TBR pile in no time. From group of mysteries to spicy romances, we'll explore it all and help you find your next favorite book. So grab a cup of tea, cozy it up, and let's discover some amazing reads together. Hi, Torry. Welcome to What Your Next podcast. I hope you're doing well. Tell us what you've been up to.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back on. I've been up to a lot, reading my way through 2024 and podcasting about it.
Yeah. We started the new season with two things. We started with a trailer of your new podcast, which we'll talk about it. And then we revisited your episode where you were just a newish reader in 2020.
I know.
Like you were just getting your feet wet. And girl, you have surpassed me now.
Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah, I want to say thanks so much for supporting the podcast because, yeah, we met through my other podcast, Ready to be Fetty, and then Laura slid into my DMs when she saw that I was starting Ready to be Romanced. And yeah, it's so funny. I started reading romance in like 2020, so I still feel very new to the space. And I only really started talking about it super publicly in 2022 with you. So I like being a new face, maybe a little less jaded, but yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Yes, I've been reading romance since 2016 and I am in the Jada phase. I'm like, I've seen it all. I see book threads, I see threads, and it's a recycled drama. I'm like, I've seen this in drama like so many times. Or like this, we talk about bookish tea and how there's a lot of romance land, of drama and gossip. And I was like, we've seen this, like, I was like, yeah, it's been repeated like 5 years ago or 2 years ago. So
Yeah, it's the same in the pop culture space for sure. Like, it's like, didn't this happen 5 years ago and stuff like that?
yeah.
And we just never learn our lesson and just repeat the same mistakes. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun to be on the sidelines and just viewing it all.
So talk to us about your journey to start reading romance. Like now that you've been looking back for 2020, how did you get started with romance? Did you find it on Book Talk or early days of Book Talk and then just kind of like went through the Kindle Limited bin?
Yeah, that's so funny. I was actually invited on a podcast, Boobies and Newbies, with our friend Kelly. Yes, our mutual friend Kelly. She and I had been mutuals on Instagram because of podcasting, and she loves pop culture. So she came on my show, and then she was like, hey, would you ever want to come on mine and read this romance novel? And I had always been a really big reader as a kid. We probably talked about this in 2022.
We did.
If people don't remember, I was a big reader in, my childhood and teens. And then when I went to university, I like completely stopped, like full stop. And I remember I would go to the local library because this was the other thing is like this would have been in 2010. And it was so hard to get a book. E-readers were like just coming out or like $1 million to purchase. So I would like literally take the bus to my library and get like, 2 or 3 books out at a time and then take them back to my college dorm room, not read any of them because I was so busy with school and stuff and res life, which is another common thread between us. And I would be so busy that I wouldn't read them and then I would have to just like return them in 2 weeks or whatever. So I just didn't really pick up a book since then. Like, of course, I've read some like maybe some social justice books or like self-help books and stuff like that. But like reading for pleasure just like didn't come back into my life. And then truly Kelly invited me on the show. I read one book and I was like, oh, this is fun. This seems like a easy entry back into reading.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. I think I've read about 400 books since 2020. Like I'm averaging like 80 to 100 a year. So I really went like full tilt. But yeah, it's also very interesting coming into this space because I was also on TikTok, but I wasn't on Book Talk until I feel
Yeah.
like maybe the past year. So yeah, it's been fun, being part of a new community and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've enjoyed myself.
I love this. And so how do you read for yourself? Like, do you read ebooks, audiobooks, library books, Kindle Limited? You're in Canada, so talk to us about the Canadian system because it's
Yeah.
fascinating. It's a little different from the US system. I know the book publishing is very US centric, but what is it like to read in Canada?
Yeah, totally. I'm a mostly ebook reader. I have like just the classic Kindle.
Yep.
But before that I had a Kobo, which I think
Yes.
is like, yeah, it's
It's
like a
Canadian.
Canadian,
Because
version.
library books are only sent on Kobos.
Yeah.
Then you can technically, because I know now the Kobo Libra comes in color, so people are not buying it. They're illegally, because Kindle books you do not own them. Amazon owns your Kindle books, which is shitty as hell.
Oh, interesting.
So they're illegally removing the protection so they can actually move the Kindle books to Kobo. So there's like a slowly movement towards the Kobo because it has colors and you can annotate.
Yeah.
But I know like for library systems, non-US libraries, you just have the books sent to Kobo as opposed to.
Yeah, it's so funny how the US and Canada are similar in so many ways, and then there's just like these really slight differences that actually become really inconvenient.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do audiobooks though, because I have a
Yeah.
Spotify premium account and they offer like 15 hours of listening to
Yeah.
audiobooks. So I just covered To All the Boys I Loved Before and Red, White, and Royal Blue, and I actually listened to those on Spotify premium. And then the Libby app. I don't know if that's American.
It's American.
Okay, yeah. I use the Libby app a lot to like get books from my local library. So
Yeah.
that's nice. But yeah, I do kind of miss being a paperback reader / literally walking down to like my beautiful public library down the street from where I live.
Yeah.
So I mix it up a little bit, but just out of ease and for like how much I'm reading and highlighting and taking notes for the podcast, I think ebook is really my best bet.
Yeah, I used to be a paperback reader for a long time. I was like my public library was near a public library, but not the fancy one that we see on TV. It's actually like a regular branch. And I used to just go pick up my books like every other week and just like bring a stack of books and then just read them. And I haven't had that experience. I tried to do it when I was in Chicago, but I was like, not anymore. I've been an ebook reader, and right now I'm just mostly an audiobook listener. So
Yeah, I really enjoy the audiobooks, especially the ones that are like narrated by a full cast and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's so immersive and so fun. So yeah, I enjoy that.
Did you try the avatars with the graphic audio?
Yes, that's how I reread them for the podcast, because I had read them, or at least the first one or two prior to starting the show.
Mhm.
So I had read those on my ebook, and then I did the graphic audio ones, and especially for fantasy. And it is mostly, I guess, fantasy that are like graphic audio, but like that really makes a difference. Whereas like if you're just reading like a contemporary romance, it's like you don't need a full
You don't need
cast.
sound effects.
Yeah, and sound effects and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I like when there's double point of view, where you have the male and the female POV and the voices. I like duet when there's like, so there's dual point of view, which is each chapter is spoken by the same narrator, but duet, if the male voices, the male dialogue will be, even though it's a female POV, there's a male dialogue, the male voice will actually intercede. And it's like a really cool experience. You're like, oh, okay.
I love it.
Thinking. So
yeah, it's so funny when it is narrated by one person and they're doing all the voices. And like it can be hit or miss, to be honest.
Yes.
So yeah.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about Ready to Be Romance. What is the podcast all about and where listeners can pick it up?
Yeah, you can find Ready to Be Romance wherever you get podcasts, wherever you're listening to this one. And the concept of the show, truly, I would say it's actually, I would bill it as a comedy show. I feel like that's maybe the difference between my podcast and other romance podcasts is we recap the book and we review it, and we have certain things we'll talk about for each book that we do for every single one of them. But I feel like we are like mostly a vibes only podcast. Like we have covered like Fourth Wing and Akatar, and I feel like so many people get into the nitty gritty about how the magic works and the types of dragons and like stuff like that. And we definitely talk about that stuff, but like it's also just like for fun.
Yeah.
It's from a comedy perspective. We are, talking shit about the characters' outfits. We're laughing when the man walks in a Henley. We're LOLing when the, shadow daddy is 1,000 years old and the female main character is like 20. Like those are the things we are pointing out and discussing. And yeah, it's really fun.
Device only. So
Definitely. Definitely.
So let's talk some winners. What have been some of the winners that you have reviewed or recommend?
Yeah, it's funny. I've actually really enjoyed, so this might not be exactly your audience, but I've actually really enjoyed the 2 young adult, like the YA novels that we covered. We covered My Life with the Walter Boys because it came out as a Netflix adaptation.
Yep.
We covered Not the Summer I Turned Pretty, To All the Boys I Loved Before, which is a Netflix movie series, obviously. So that has been really fun and really sweet. It's nice to look at romance from, a variety of perspectives, a variety of like stages in people's lives. So I really enjoyed that. I loved looking at Twilight.
Yes.
Because I was a big hard girly.
Yeah. We have a secret project coming up this week.
Yeah, we do. We do. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
Yeah, it was just really fun. I'm actually going to Forks this weekend, which is like gonna be the trip of my lifetime. But
yes. Take pictures. Take us where you want.
Yes, I'll post some of them. But yeah, it's like those types of things that have been really fun because when I started my other podcast, the whole premise of the show is like I want to talk about things that are like embarrassing to other people or that are deemed like superficial and like vapid or whatever. Like I wanted to talk about High School Musical. I wanted to talk about Twilight. I wanted to talk about all of these things that a lot of people I feel like would be fans of, but in secret, especially if you're 31 like I am.
Yes.
And then I feel like the romance genre actually has that same thing. People are so embarrassed to talk about romance and what they like about it and what they're reading. And so, yeah, it's very like similar, like a very similar premise. Yeah, I also we did a monster romance. We did the Dragon's Bride and like just like blowing people's minds, which I know for you, you're just like, that's like an old hat at this point. But like you're like, that's literally nothing. But like it literally blew some people's minds. Like
I think you should do a White Shoes romance if you haven't picked one up. Like I think you should do that just to have a conversation about like white shoes.
Yeah,
it's there. So too many times.
Yes. Yeah. No, I 100% should. Yeah,
that could be a fun one. You should be like white shoes. Like you don't need to cheat on someone. You can have both, and they can actually like each other too.
100%. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Awesome. Okay, so what are your reading plans? Which books are you planning to read, or like you're planning not just to cover, but like you're looking forward to reading?
Yeah. Okay. I'm really looking forward to reading My Lady Jane.
Yeah,
because it's becoming, I think, a prime adaptation. Yeah. So I've been really into like pairing books that I'm reading and covering on the show. When it's becoming like an adaptation. So I want to like they need to translate the Maxton Hall book into English.
I am so mad.
I'm shocked that they haven't.
I'm a Reddit threads and they're like, I found a translation that Google translates me like PDF. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not the same. I need someone
I
to
know.
later. So yeah,
Yeah, that's not as good, but
yeah.
it might have to suffice for right now. So
There's
yeah,
a
I'm really excited for that one.
I'm excited for Maxon Hall season 2. I am obsessed with Maxon Hall. Like the whole boarding school, spoiled rich boy who plays lacrosse and the poor,
It's
you know,
iconic.
good girl. It's like it's like the recipe for the greatest love story that we
Of
just
100%. Yeah. It was really, really good and kind of like a sleeper hit almost.
yeah.
Not that it only came out in May and is a big success. So not a sleeper hit in that way, but I think it's just like there was no coverage on it
No.
beforehand.
Mm.
Yeah, when we usually get a lot of lead up. I'm also gonna read, this is kind of a curveball, I would say, but the QB Bad Boy in Me, which is a Wattpad turned like published book
Yeah.
that Noah Beck is starring in the movie adaptation for, and they are filming it in Victoria, which is where I live.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
have you walked on sets? Have you been walking by and like how does
Okay.
that work? How does that work for you? Because when I lived in New York, we used to have signs. New York will tell you when the street was closing and it will tell you where it is, what the project is. Unless it was top secret, it was like something city, you're not supposed to. But like most of the time they tell you what it is. Then you walk on set. I used to live by across the street from City Hall. So I used to see Law and Order and they used to I work at Pace, which is a university. And the Law and Order SBU used to use our bathrooms because they didn't have
Oh,
bathrooms
interesting.
outside. So, like, we'll see them randomly, Mariska Hargitay, like, walking around down the hall for the bathroom, God
Yeah.
bless. But I'm curious, like, how other cities, like, hide or they announce, like, hey, we're filming here.
Yeah, it's funny because people really call Vancouver and like the area that I live, they call it Hollywood North
Yeah.
because we get so much tax rate, or the production company gets such big tax write-offs
Yeah.
when filming in at least my province. I don't know if it's everywhere
Yeah.
in Canada. But because we're such a sleepy town, like this is like literally this is the city that Meghan and Harry escaped to after they left the royal family. They came to Victoria. So like we just really let people like do their own thing. Lots of Hallmark movies film here. They
Yeah.
turn like our downtown into like, Christmas Tinseltown and stuff like that. But it's so funny how little I think like secrecy they have to do. Like I literally know like where they are filming and stuff like that, and they just no one really shows up, I feel like, because we all
Yeah.
just kind of like mind our own business here. I think that's one of the, I don't know, the good things, but
Yeah.
I would be very happy to randomly bump into Noah Beck somewhere downtown.
That would be amazing. I hope you manifest that. In the woo woo vice girl, we're just gonna get the energy. You put it in the vortex.
I love that. I love that.
Awesome. So, any other shows that you're looking forward to, or movies are coming up? Any pop culture, any pop culture predictions that you have that have come true, and then the ones that are like, you predict something, I'm so
Yeah.
for Justin Timberlake getting arrested. It's a sweet.
Oh my God. Then yeah, that was like the wildest morning just because I feel like he has kept a pretty low profile personally. He had like a little like pseudo cheating scandal a few years ago when he
Yeah.
was like he was with a colleague. I think he was filming a movie or something like that and was like kind of getting touchy with her in New Orleans on like a
Yeah.
balcony. And there was pictures that leaked. But it's like that was kind of the last like scandal I feel like he had. And I feel like he was kind of on his redemption story with NSYNC and his tour and all of that stuff. And then this came out and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you messed that up. But like, whatever. I don't think he's like a good person. I
Yeah.
think he's like stepped on a lot of people to get to where he is. I kind of feel bad how he like ditched NSYNC and how he treated Britney Spears and Janet Jackson. And
Yep.
so,
Karma's a
he get
bitch.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, karma's a bitch. He should have known better,
Yeah,
and
and I'm so
yeah.
glad that the police officer did not know who he was. I was like, I know I feel old because I'm actually his age. I'm 40, 42. I'm turning 43 this year. But he's so glad that he's like, oh, this is going to mess up the tour. What kind of tour? The world tour?
Yeah,
Okay.
like,
Okay.
yeah,
Good. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. I'm like, sir, no.
yeah, and it's in those moments that I really see how celebrities operate because, we saw that, like, a very similar conversation with when Zach Bryan got arrested, when Reese
Yeah.
Witherspoon got arrested, like, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, ridiculous.
So, any pop culture predictions?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, like, what I'm looking forward to. Honestly, I didn't predict, like, something that I didn't predict was, like, Bridgerton kind of flopping this
Yeah.
season. Like, I feel like it's will always be a show that is watched by, 45 million people or whatever, but that was something I was really, really didn't think was even in the realm of possibility, to be honest, and I
Yeah.
just was like, wow, I was bamboozled.
Yeah. I only
Yeah.
watched 3 episodes, so did not watch the kerosene, did not watch any of the new episodes. Some already spoiled it for me, and I think we're gonna keep it that way.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, honestly, the first 4 episodes I think are really good. The, like, 5 to 8, I feel like are, like, a little bit rough, to be honest. Yeah. 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 Do I have any other pop culture predictions or anything? I just think, like, speaking of, like, pop culture and the romance genre, I just think, like, probably because of some of the, like, consequences, I guess, of book talk, like, I really think that we are having a renaissance in movies and TV shows that are
Yeah,
gonna be based on books. Like,
yeah,
that is also something I think I didn't really predict. It really feels like it used to in, like, the 2000s, and
yeah.
I'm happy for that.
Yeah, I just had a conversation with a author who's a screenwriter, and she said it's like she was frustrated that as a screenwriter, a lot of the jobs now are just adapting original intellectual property. And so she was complaining with her agent. He's like, well, you need to write your own book. She's like, okay, I'm going to write my own book. Her books are fabulous. But it was like funny enough, like even screenwriters are like, now their job is to adapt as opposed to, you know,
Create
an
something brand new.
original
Yeah.
IP. So I think, yeah, it's definitely acquiring is a big business right now. Not a lot of things get off the ground, but the ones that are getting off the ground are doing really well. We have
Yeah.
Stacey Jones, we got The Idea of You did really well. Yeah, Bridgerton has done really well, even though it's like flop. We have Red, White, and Royal Blue, and they're getting it
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Like, so yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's an interesting time to be a reader.
And there's been some of the, like, Spanish A
Yep.
books, Mia Culpa and
Yeah, Culpa. Yep, that one did really well.
What's the other one? A través de mi ventana?
A través de mi ventana. I haven't seen it. What series is this?
That one, like, I think it takes place in Barcelona. I remember I
Okay.
watched the first movie, and then I was like, "I'm gonna read the book."
Yeah,
And then I must have, like, fallen off.
yeah.
And then my friend was like, "Oh, have you seen this series? There's 3 movies." And I was like, "Oh my god, what?" I watched the first one, like, a year or 2 ago
Okay.
and just totally
So
forgot.
I may try that one actually for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I also was gonna say to you, guess what I was watching this weekend? Midnights in the Para Palace.
So what do you think?
I loved it. I haven't finished. I think it's 10 episodes. I'm
Yep.
probably like 7 in.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I really like historical, like, I really liked Cable Girls and
Yeah.
Grand Hotel. Like, I really like that type of
Yeah.
historical, like, I love, oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget the name, the one that takes place in New York.
Gilded Age or
Gilded Age,
Yep.
yes. I love that type of era of TV shows.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Midnights at the Pear Palace is, like, It's really good. Yeah, it's fun. The
I-
Turkish
That one-
adventure, drama,
Yes.
romances. Yeah.
I am all here for the Turkish. Is this one on Netflix or is it on which streamer is it?
I think it's Netflix.
I think so. Netflix is
Yeah.
acquiring. So my other show, as the Turkish TV Obsessed that I do co-host in another space, we're watching As the Crow Flies, which I think you should watch because it's actually like it's a news agent. It's like the morning show meets like thriller vibes. So the opening scene starts with a bang. You're like two women fighting. You're like, what is going on? And so we get a manipulative intern who's like totally scamming and scheming and manipulating shit. And then we got the big like the newscaster kind of deal, and they're like fighting, but they don't know they're fighting. It's so fucking good.
This looks really good. So just wait. It is
At the Crow Flies, there's 3 seasons,
3
8
seasons. Yeah.
each. But my co-host actually watched it, and she said she has watched it multiple times. She says it gets better and better each season. So
It looks really good. It looks right up my alley.
yes. So, and then Thank You Next. If you haven't watched that one, that's another one that I would start watching. And it's about like I think she's like she's getting divorced or something, and it's a more flirty, more rom-com-y one. So
Love it. Love it. These are great.
so yeah,
Great suggestions.
we got
Yeah.
suggestions of what to watch.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, it is all good.
Yeah.
Torry, tell us where you can find you online.
Yeah, you can find me on socials at Ready to Be Romance, and then you can find my podcast, Ready to Be Romance, on all podcast platforms.
Awesome. Thank you, Torry, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of the What to Read Next podcast. If you enjoy our bookish conversations and want more recommendations, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, head on over to the What to Read Next blog for a list of books mentioned in today's show. Happy reading!